everything points to the fact that your happiness as a person and your longevity, how long you live, are directly tied to the community of people that you have in your life and how they make you feel. Real human connection is paramount, especially as we move into a world run by AI. Each of us in our own houses, each of us in our own cars. It's actually against what we should be doing.
Why do most networking events suck?
Community is a superpower for a business.
Can you break down run clubs then? Why are they becoming the new form of our community?
In fact, the higher you get up the chain of someone's level of involvement, the more likely that they want to be rewarded with the ability to give you advice.
So how important is belonging to connection and forming that community?
Connection nowadays is built on a few facets. How do we connect as people in this world where we are hyper connected and yet we feel very disconnected? A lot of us feel very lonely. I don't know if it's a trend thing so much as a realization that word of mouth and real human connection telling you about something is paramount, especially as we move into a world run by AI and avatars representing people, Google review.
Or 500 Google reviews on a brand new business that started 2 days ago.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But we totally believe in that stuff
100%.
right now. Testimonials, and the thing now that'll be tricky is is a testimonial from a bot or is it a testimonial from a real person? But I'm trying to book accommodation for a trip coming up, and anywhere that has less than 5 reviews, even if the place looks amazing, because sometimes I do Airbnbs or smaller places, right, in different countries, it's hard, I can't book it because I don't have the trust in it yet. Damn. I need it to get more reviews, right? I'm too nervous of
So would you rather have a place that has 500 fake reviews? Or would you rather have a place that has 5 real reviews?
Oh, well, 5 real, but the problem is how do you distinguish?
Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, I want to dive into the world of what you do. I think that's really cool. We watched TED Talks. We watched a couple of things that you've done before.
Cool.
And I think you know how to talk. You know how to speak. And that's the best thing. And you know this from being on panels, when somebody knows how to communicate properly. I'm sure you've been on panels where people don't know how to do that. And it's just okay, come on, let's go. You're big on connecting.
Yeah.
So reverse psychology here. What makes people disconnect?
So if you're actually in front of someone and you check out, a lot of probably very cheesy things, standard things. I think you disconnect with someone if you don't think they're listening to you, if they only are talking and not asking questions, which goes into the listening part. I think a lot of times we have to recognize what kind of person we're in front of very fast and adjust accordingly, because there's not a blanket rule that works. Sometimes you talking a lot actually allows that person to be more comfortable because they're not someone who actually wants to do all the talking, right? Yeah. But other times it's the opposite and you need to listen way more than you talk. And we know from a lot of evidence that people talking about themselves makes them feel really good. Most people, there's certainly buckets of people where that's not the case if they're nervous and put on the spot. But so if you are the one talking all the time, you leave and you feel better about the interaction. So learning to ask really good questions is a great skill. But I think the disconnection part happens when we don't feel like we have any common ground with that person. And so you have to try and achieve that common ground no matter whether it's talking or not talking or whatever, feeling out that interaction. I wonder what else causes disconnection. It's funny to reverse the question. I'll probably think of things as soon as I leave.
Well, what makes people connect, and we'll just do the opposite of it.
Yeah. Well, we don't want to do the opposite of it. Connection nowadays is built on a few facets, and one of which is that we need to actually physically be around people. I'm a big proponent of online connection, and so I do believe that you can do that same thing online, which sounds a bit counterintuitive, right? You're Margaux, you said you have to be physically around someone, but you can be physically present in an online space as well, in the sense of having a video call, seeing the person's expression still, spending a meaningful, concerted amount of time with them. There's a really good formula that someone like a former Navy SEAL or one of those guys, I can find his name for you later, but has this book, and it says it's about how much you're around somebody, the proximity of that relationship. So that could be physical proximity, or even just a friend who lives 2 blocks away from you, you're more likely to deepen your relationship with that person and have deeper connection than a friend who lives on the other side of the city or in another country.
Totally believe that.
You totally can have a great relationship with someone in another country, but then you have to play with the other parts of this formula, right? And so the other parts are like duration of the time with them. So they might be far away, but then, and the depth of the time with them. So if they're far away, but you go visit once a year, and for that week, you live in their house with them, and you're together 24/7 for a week, those relationships can be stronger than ones in your city where you have the proximity, but you've spent this like condensed duration. If you add up the amount of hours in that week, it's often more than this person you see in your same city if you add up the little like half an hour walks you go on or the coffee you do every month or two, right? So it's this idea of like proximity with duration and intensity of that interaction, like depth or intensity of the interaction, will give you kind of this friendship connection, this deepened connection with somebody. And there's a lot of kind of formulas like that people have out there of how you can look at it. But those are really good, like easy ones to remember. There's also, you know, I was reading a book recently by a lady who I didn't interview her, I introduced her on stage at a big community conference earlier this year. And her name's Kat, and she wrote this book about basically making friends as adults. It's not what it's called, but that's essentially the book should be called like How to Make Friends as Adults. Because sometimes we move to a new city and we don't have friends, or we, you know, our life stage changes. Like maybe you're married and then you get divorced and now the friends are kind of in a mix and you want to find new friends that are single now again or whatever, right? There's all kinds of reasons we need new friends at different parts in our life. And one of the things she was looking at was some research that suggested that the average like deep friendship, like a true friendship, a good friend, someone who would, you know, go check on your parents if you're out of town and you needed them to because your parents were sick or something. That good friend takes about like at least 2,000 hours to curate was what this research was showing, which is really interesting. But then there was a lot of things to say. So, you know, you could just leave it at that and be like, okay, cool, 2,000 hours. But when you look deeper into it, those factors of like intensity, duration of time spent together, like in one go, that kind of stuff, could speed up the 2,000 hours.
So how much of that is dependent on the other person that you're trying to make a connection with? So when I say that, you could have someone who is hyper, really good at talking, wants to put in the effort to make that connection, right? Let's say you go across the world to Brazil, and you go spend a week with a friend that you've been chatting online, and that person gets so overstimulated by you being there for a week that you're almost like hindering your connection. So how much does that depend, your bond of connection depend on the other person?
That is a great point. I have had that experience for sure. Your bond definitely depends on you both wanting that friendship at the same time.
Right.
And that was, you know, a lot of what was in this friendship book that I was just reading recently, because we often want friendships to work that just aren't at the right space and time as where we are. And oftentimes people get discouraged, right? It's kind of like dating. People get discouraged, but it's a lot about timing and that person like wanting the same things as you. We just don't think about it in colleague interactions, friendship interactions, right? We take things kind of like personally, or we don't try in the same way. But people who look at friendships like a relationship, like it is a relationship of some kind that you have to like maintain and, you know, be in the same spot and communicate over that. In this book, there's some really great activities that you can do to try and maintain relationships or figure out if that person's at the same spot. Sometimes they'll suggest literally talking to the person and saying, hey, like, I would like to be better friends than we are. You know, we're new, we go to coffee once a month, or we walk our dogs because we met at the coffee shop down the road in this new city I'm living in. But like, you know, I don't have a lot of friends here. I think you're really great. Like, we've had some fun conversations. We connected over these things. Like, by chance, would you be interested in hanging out more often and seeing what the person says? It's you would do that if you were dating and you were waiting and you didn't know the status of the relationship, right? I mean, some people are afraid to do that, but it helps if you're brave enough to do that. But friendships or work colleagues or whatever, we're not wired, or we haven't been taught to do those exercises and to be brave in communication with friends. It's been so fun in the last like 10 years digging more and more into human connection for me, because now I have those conversations that almost seem weird with friends, and it helps my relationships.
Do you see the world in a different view now because you've dived into the world of looking into that?
Yes, 100%. Before I studied community and connection the way I have more recently, I was constantly thinking about leaving Winnipeg and going to a bigger metropolis, probably in Europe somewhere. I was even looking into visas and stuff. And the more I researched it, or I wasn't researching to make that decision, just the more I was learning about community and connection, everything points to the fact that your happiness as a person and your longevity, how long you live, are directly tied to the community of people that you have in your life and how they make you feel. And the fact that you have a deep connected group of humans. And so when I was thinking about moving away, it would have been essentially like 3 homes. I would have had the new city, which would be cool and exciting, but you wouldn't have deep connections yet, right? You'd have to make them, which maybe take 2 years, they maybe take 2,000 hours, they maybe take a long time. I would have the road, because I'm on the road a lot speaking, right? Like right now it's about half the year that I'm currently gone. And then I would have back here in my hometown in Winnipeg, where my family are and a lot of my good connections that help me with that happiness and longevity aspect, right? So this new place really like isn't giving you much for a long time. A little bit of excitement, proximity to my work, but isolation, potentially feelings of loneliness, like actually big risk factors when you're like studying this kind of stuff, when you're looking at on paper in front of you. I kept going, if I do this, if I move, I'm breaking all of the rules of what I'm reading makes you happy and helps you live longer, like a longer, more prosperous, happier life. So I think this is why in Winnipeg we're actually so lucky. People who come here totally and understand it and bother to like dig into the city a little bit, totally understand the value of human connection that we have here. We are very kind people. There's totally a difference in that feeling of like rat race or not, and how much time we give to the people in our lives, whether they're strangers or not. The willingness to like meet when you don't even know someone for a coffee or to do a podcast or whatever, right? We have a lot of really amazing things like that in our city that help us to feel stronger human connection.
Do you think it was easier to make a connection back when our parents were growing up? The reason I say that is because the sense of community and the sense of belonging is a massive contributor to your connection. So when you look in the past, everyone would go to church on Sundays, and some might not even do it because they're religious. Some might do it for that community aspect.
Yeah.
And now we have...
Even today, I think some do it for the community
100%.
aspect.
And so now, I feel like that's slightly declining, the number of people that go to events to form that community.
Yeah.
And I would almost say that's probably because we have so many choices with social media. We can I could speak to someone in Africa right now if I wanted to from a text away, right? Do you think that's taken away from our sense of community?
It's a very thoughtful question, and I think there's 2 sides to the answer that I even battle. So one side is absolutely the human contact with like frequency and people there to help was way stronger.
Right.
I over and over think to myself, I need all my friends to move in together. Like we need like a compound where we all live on the same property. Like
so
maybe
cool.
not in the exact same like apartment together or whatever,
so
because
cool.
we still do need our space. We have been trained to have space. It's like the world that we live in now. But I do think like community living is brilliant. And that's funny for me to say because like, look, I'm wearing a blazer right now. Like I'm a buttoned up person. I'm not like a, I'm not someone who grew up being like, I want to be around my friends all the time and be like hippie and whatever. And like, that's not the right term, but that's not who I am. And yet, but from in like intelligent studied perspective, I do realize that would be super beneficial. So I have friends that joke about it and we talk about it, but it's pretty hard to decide to actually like put your money behind some shared space because you just don't know where people's lives are still going, like kids and jobs and moving and stuff. So like, what would that look like if someone leaves? How do you afford the extra space? Then you have to find another friend. Like it's complicated, right? But so on one side, back in the day, they had that kind of living in a sense.
Right.
Today, if you want someone to look after your kid because you're busy, you hope that you have family in the city that's willing to help you. Back in the day, you didn't need your family next door. First of all, you probably had them next door.
Yeah.
But second of all, the community, like literally the people in the neighborhood would look after your kid and you didn't even really have to ask. It was just like, Bob and Susie work late, so we've got their kids outside playing street hockey or whatever, not even back then probably, but just like playing with sticks in the yard.
100%.
And we know we gotta kind of keep an eye on them until 7 when they get home because it's that family that needs help or whatever, right? Now, people like don't even want to leave their kids with anyone. Like there's a different total, like it's almost an isolation that we're doing to people. It's on the one hand, I look at it some days and think, this is so opposite of what we need. Like it's actually wrong. And all the studies say like each of us in our own houses, each of us in our own cars, it's actually against what we should be doing. However, the question that you had about, did they have an easier time? Was it stronger connection? On the flip side, back then, if the people you truly wanted to connect with were not of faith, were gay, or lesbian, right? Or were into something that your community wasn't into, activity or skill-wise, you were isolated because you were at the mercy of the physical people that were near you, right? Before travel, everything was as easy, before we had the internet in the same way. So today, with the ability to do actual strong online connection, those people can find, this silly thing of like find your tribe, but we can find the people that we're meant to be connected with through these tools. So in a way, it's amazing. And those people would have never found connection, and now they can.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Even if you're just like really into 3D printing and you live in a small town where no one does that, it's like just a farming community or something, you could find somebody else online interested in 3D printing. You could have a chat with them. You could make friends with them. You might never meet them in person, right? If they might be in another country or something, but you can benefit from the tools that we have now to have that human connection that you may never have had.
Right.
What's the negative side though? Like, when COVID happened, everyone was forced to live with their family and divorce rates went up. Like, so what's the negative side of just being locked in a room with you? Like, if we were locked in a room for a while, like, I'd punch them. Like, like, I'm sure we'd get into a war. Like,
but then I think you'd get over it and your relationship would still be strong.
Yeah.
I don't know all the background behind things like the divorce rates during COVID. However, I think there are some arguments to say that like maybe those were meant to happen anyway.
Sure.
In which case, those people
They
are
just
now
sped up the process.
like, yeah, maybe it sped up the process. But now those people, and there were some very scary and negative things that happened in COVID with domestic violence and things like that, which is like a whole separate conversation.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the connection side of it, I think that those people now are open to the right kind of like human connection that they need to feel fulfilled and whole. And, as much as that stuff is hard, sometimes you are just like with the wrong person and you realize it, and now your life can be exciting for the next chapter again. Like I believe in, like outside of the whole connection thing in general, I believe that people can be in your life for a period of time and be really amazing for that period of time, and then they're just like no longer the right fit for each other anymore, right? Like again, look at that example of, so you're in a marriage and you have kids, and that's like that phase of your life, and that's really who you want to be around because you want other moms to help you or other dads to, understand how tired you are or whatever, right? But then there's like a phase of your life where maybe that's all done, and now you want friends who are like going out again. And if all your friends are having a second set of kids and you're not, and you're ready to go out again, then you kind of gravitate toward different people, and that's totally okay, right? And so I think that like thinking that way is maybe a positive way to think, so that you can feel confident about the like next relationships you form or the people that in your life, and you can mourn friendships that you've lost and relationships that you've lost, but then like focus on the great people that are still in front of you.
New people come in.
Yeah.
What was your life of community like? Like, how'd you get into this world of like diving into that and choosing this as like something that you wanted to pursue?
Yeah. I was always somebody that was really into like networking and being around people, and not even networking because that wouldn't have been the word I used when I was young, right?
Networking
just
as
like,
a 6-year-old.
Yeah, right? Like my friends actually made fun of, like when I was 20 or something, I remember I brought a bunch of friends to the cabin. We have a family cottage, like, very Winnipeg style over in Ontario. And I had these two friends join in the car that didn't know each other for carpooling effects. And I said, oh, it's going to be so great because when you get there, like you'll be able to network with different people because they're from, and they were like, Margaux, we're not coming to the cabin to network. And I was like, oh, I didn't mean to use the word like that. I just meant like you'd get to know each other before, and then you'd meet other people when you got there and you'd know each other. And so like to this day, every time we hang out, they're like, are we hanging out or are we networking? Like, so yeah, it was a joke for sure about like who I was. But so I think it was innate, and that's a funny way to look at it.
Yeah.
But I was always around a lot of like adults when I was young because we had this cabin in the woods. There weren't a lot of kids. We were water access only, and people were far apart on the lake. So we had like one friend, and if they weren't around, like you were with the parents. You were with your parents and their friends. And I think that there were like age differences and stuff. And so it was often just like a lot of adults that we would sit at the dinner table with. And so we were around people that were maybe like outside your normal scope of who you should talk to at that phase of life or who you did as often. And so I think we gained these amazing skills of just feeling like it was okay to talk to anyone, right? Feeling like it was okay to be in the same room as senior people in business, like people way older than you, people younger than you, whatever. Like, and then when we were 14, 15, we moved to Australia for a year. So my brother and I and my parents.
Cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. We did an exchange program where my mom switched jobs with someone as teachers because Canada and Australia have a reciprocal school system.
They have a great.
Yeah. And then the spouse, who in this case my dad, just works for like a short period of time because they only have like a temporary visa. And then the kids, we went to like normal school there for a school year. So for me, it was like half grade 9, half grade 10.
Wow.
And again, like another experience where we were around people that weren't our standard people. We had to make new friends. We had to like put ourselves out there in maybe a somewhat uncomfortable environment. Luckily, still English speaking, but like, we were in a rural area. Here we're in a city. We were totally like the weird kids there, right? Like we were the ones that were not
no Australian
not
accent,
meant to be
like
there.
Canadian
We didn't have the
like-
accent. Yeah, exactly. And so I think there were a bunch of like formative experiences that ended up making me this person who just like was like, okay, well, you're in a new environment, you better make new friends because otherwise like it'll be a better experience, right? Or like talk to these people that are around you because it's more fun when you talk than just like sit by yourself at the cabin, or your brother who like doesn't want to play with you anymore, right? And so I have to believe that some of that shaped us. It also shaped my travel desires, and which like fast forwards to my career today and wanting a career where I could travel the world.
Yeah.
But I think I was definitely just always someone who was connecting people. Even I remember I had a friend living with me in my 20s because I bought a house young, and we were watching some movie about some version of mortality, and it was kind of like doing things before you die. And we ended up having a conversation really kind of deep after and saying like, if we died now, how would people remember us? Like, well, and we kind of went, how would you remember me, to the friend that was there. And kind of a fun exercise that you should do with your friends if you have it in you. But she said something that I didn't realize about myself at the time, which was, she was like, you have made me like do these things I would have never done. Like I'm always doing new things and I invite people along, because it's more fun for me to invite friends along, right? And connect friends. Just like the friends I connected in the car that day on the way to the cabin. If I think people are meant to be together, I'll just do it. And it was always an innate thing for me. So we're sitting there and she says, you've made me do all these new things and introduced me to all these new people. And oftentimes like I didn't want to go, but I knew if you were leading it, like it would be fun. So I went. So she's like, you made my life like more interesting and more like vast.
Cool.
And she was really thankful for it. And it was so interesting because I didn't realize that about myself at the time. And then because she said it in such a meaningful way in that conversation, later I started to like internalize it and go, oh yeah, and I like it about myself and I want to be that person. So then it was more active after that. I think I went like, maybe I'm tired this year. I don't want to host my annual Christmas party, but like I hosted it anyway last weekend because I wanted people to be able to come together, and they're used to this like gathering at my place where they meet new people who I met throughout the year and picked up,
Yeah.
So I think it's innate in some way. And then I realized at some point that community building was a job, which I had never heard of before that.
Yeah.
And managed to get a big global position at a company that trusted me, out of Winnipeg to take on this role. And then it was kind of, all history from there. I was always doing it in my jobs without identifying that it was community building, because community building involves marketing and engagement and events and online chat stuff and facilitation and a little bit of PR and like it involves all of these different functions, and I thought I had to pick one of those, and community was this beautiful way to merge them all together.
Wow.
So yeah, innate, and then fast forward and it all just kind of came together.
How important were those uncertain moments when you were mentioning like you didn't have friends at the cabin if they were away, and you were sat at the table with the adults, right? As a young adult growing up, that's very difficult because you're faced with opposite opinions and you feel like you want to belong at a table, right? And so how important is belonging to connection and forming that community?
Yeah. We talk a lot about it almost interchangeably. A sense of belonging is what we're trying to create when we work in the field of community.
Right.
We want people to feel connected to one another and also to the brand, if we're doing it for a company. Because you want them to come together over your brand and be champions of it and do the word of mouth thing for it, right? So it is incredibly important. There are a lot of like rules that you can put in place in community, like standard, if you're looking at the background of how community building works kind of in essence, which, in practice looks sometimes a little different, right? Because humans are humans and we're all different. But there's things like you have to have a clear identity for that group of people so that people know if they're in or they're out. And some people would say, well, everyone has to be in because otherwise you're alienating people or whatever. And it's like, yeah, okay, I get that argument. You want to be like polite still, but otherwise it's just everyone in the world is a member and then there's no delineation. Right. So you do have to have a clear identity of who's in that group. So you could say like, anyone who likes sports, okay, that's pretty broad. That's like maybe everybody in some way, right? But if I'm forming a community around, you know, moms of kids who play hockey in Manitoba, well, you have a much more clear definition of who's within who that's meant for. Right. So you could still accept dads in that if you wanted to, but if you're clear on the identity, at least every mom who has a kid in hockey will know that they are welcome there.
Right.
So they don't even have to explain when they get there, oh, I'm a mom of a hockey player, because everyone's just going to assume. They're going to meet you, hey, so what kid's your team on, what age is he?
Yeah.
You don't have to explain first, oh, a lot of my time is spent at the hockey arena because I'm a mom of a kid who plays hockey. Like, this is a silly example that I'm dragging out here, but identity of the group is super important to that sense of belonging and having clarity on that. And then you do want to have like boundaries of some kind to like who's allowed in or not. When you have clear identity, there's basically like this nice cycle that we talk about. When you have clear identity, it builds trust. And when you have trust, it leads to more participation. Participation is what you want in this group, right? Because this is what you're aiming for. And then when you have people who participate, you want to reward them in some way so that they are validated that their identity is part of that group. So the circle kind of goes around. But rewards don't have to be things like money or prizes or whatever. It could be like badges if you have an online system, right? It could be even just like a good job or an acknowledgement of the fact that they're participating in some way. So online, if it's a chat space, that could really just be like making sure you answer their comment is the reward. And giving a thumbs up to it, right? Because so often things like fall on dead ears. This is why community managers are so important, because they're in there like, or moderators or leaders of your group or ambassadors or whatever it is that you've curated within your community or your group of people. It's super important that you have those people, because then they validate people's participation in those like very subtle ways even, which help people to want to participate more and feel like they're actually an identity matches this group, and then they go around that cycle again. Very quick like community 101 there, yeah.
Do you have to be intentional about it?
Yeah.
Like you have to?
Yeah. You'll see communities where they're just like running on their own and they're amazing, and people are like, you know, that guy over there leads it, but together we're just participating and I'm helping you and you're helping me. That's after they've done a ton of work to get it there.
Gotcha.
Sometimes there are people who are just like love a brand so much that they're ambassadors for it. And we think like that just happened because the brand is so good. But the marketing team has worked really hard on making the brand a thing that people want to represent, and have probably had community type programs in place to push people to do those actions, again, with some kind of rewards or a point system or gamification or something, right? So they love it so much, they're gonna do all these things regardless of the points. But actually, like the points is ever what kicked them off, or an event they were invited to where they felt special kicked them off, or they just like love the Lululemon pants so much and the feel of them, so they are an ambassador, but they're validated for being that because other people also love that brand that the marketing team has worked so hard to make seem like it's a lifestyle brand that's really cool if you wear it.
Gotcha.
Right? So there's all this stuff like behind the scenes. Yeah.
So can you break down run clubs then? Why are they becoming the new form of our community?
Yeah. This is a fun question. I haven't been asked this before. Yeah, I mean, it's some of the stuff I was just talking about. And some of it, I believe, has to do with the fact that we do live in kind of like a lonely era, and running, you're physically in person at this thing. Also because you don't actually have to talk that much, so there's a low barrier of entry. You could just show up and literally just run if you wanted to, or you stay after like for the drink or whatever, right? But once you're already running and someone says hi to you, then it's easier to stay for the drink. This is why sometimes, like if you're hosting an event and it's like you want to do a sit-down dinner because you want to reward people as part of your group and you want to buy them dinner, what you might do first is like go play darts or go bowling or do something where people have to like, they don't have to talk the whole time, but it breaks the ice in a fun way, so that the action of what you're doing like softens the need to like have this deep conversation, right? So that's partly why something like physical works really well. And it's also like, it's a clear identity. If you're a runner, you are invited. They usually say things like, you know, it doesn't matter how fast you run, or we're only doing 2K or 5K or something that's like accessible, right? So even if you're not like a pro runner, you can come. Also, like some people I think are going because it's a kind of a dating opportunity, and nowadays there's not that many like good opportunities like that, right? And it's like, it's usually they do it on a very consistent basis, which is also super helpful. They'll be like every first Tuesday of the month or every Tuesday, which also then gives like consistency. You know when to show up. There's a group in our city called Tech Thursdays, so not a run club, but it's every single Thursday. And there were other Tech Mixer things in our city before that, and that one by far gets the most consistent attendance because you don't need to know whether it's running that week. It is on every Thursday, right? So that's part of the run club thing that works. So yeah, that's kind of breaking down a few of the aspects of why they work. It's that easy barrier to entry is the biggest thing.
Right, and that one I almost feel like a lot of when you start those run clubs, they don't even think about that.
No.
They're just like, hey, I want to start a run club with my friends, and then it ends up being this massive platform where you can start building that community. So back to Robin's question is like, how intentional do you actually have to be? Because if those things are happening, is there a rather point of just getting people out and being your authentic self
Yep.
and allowing that connection to happen naturally rather than forcing it?
Yeah, and I think it depends on your goals.
Right.
It would be rare that a run club with no intentionality would achieve a certain goal that they wanted long term. But it depends on your goals. So if the goal is literally just have people run together because I don't want to run alone, then yeah, you probably don't need to be that intentional. But if it's like you want people to represent your clothing brand that is a running brand of clothing, then you need them to come, like, care about the brand, want to talk about it. You need to be able to like integrate it into like what you're doing in a natural way.
Right.
You need the consistency. You need someone always wearing it every week when they go there, like all these things, right? So it depends on the outcome. If it's literally just like get people together, yeah, we can get friends together, but there'll be like some weeks where less people come and some weeks where more come and some weeks where like the people you don't really like are the only ones who show up and you're like, is it worth me running this still? Because like I don't want to sit with these people really in reality, you know? Or you're a super open person and you want to sit with no matter anyone, and if 2 people come, you're still super happy, in which case, don't worry too much about how serious you take it because you're still going to be super happy at the end of the day. So it depends on your goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've made friends with a couple of the run clubs people here, and over the summer, like there is that intentionality of like, hey, I need people to sign up for my gym.
Yeah.
And I want like, okay,
Right.
like I'm gonna get like this is a free way of getting a low barrier entry of getting a lot of people together who are interested in the same thing.
Yep.
I'm gonna sell them X, Y,
They're
Z
interested in
after.
fitness, they're interested in like
Yeah.
coming together. Yeah.
It's the right amount of people. And then the other side of like how intentional you have to be, it doesn't always have to be like a big company, right? Like if someone's like starting, like myself, we're starting a company as well, and like in the early stages of it, how could I be intentional about it without going the full like having an actual community team?
Right. Yeah. That's a great question, and it's very thoughtful because community is a superpower for a business, for sure, if you can do it right. And doing it right from the beginning is super smart, and there are subtle ways that you can do it. Even, for example, starting by capturing people's contact info in everything that you're doing is a way to slowly start your community, right? Like you're not necessarily doing it yet, but like we forget that we're around all these people whose emails we could get or whose whatever. And so this is not like a nice form of community because what I'm talking about is like marketing, right?
Give me your email.
yeah, exactly. Great. Okay, thanks. I feel really connected to you. But then you have a way of communicating with them when you do events like that. Okay, so phase 1, like gather information, very like 101 of marketing, but we forget to do it often when we're, especially when we're in very natural human situations. Because when we have a really good rapport, you don't want to make it cold by like asking for contact info, but actually those are some of like the best people, right? So it's this funny thing. We're better at it nowadays because everyone connects on LinkedIn and stuff all the time or whatever when we're in business situations. But then you can do things where you bring people in early to help you with what you're creating. Yeah. So especially if it's a tech company of some kind, which a lot of people, in my world are talking about, but bring them into a small round table. So say there's like 5 people you connected with recently that are really great and they seem to care about what you're building and you don't have time to like run a community where every week you're making these people feel good. Bring them in for something that feels important. So again, like a round table where you're asking for their opinion on the next iteration of your app or the next phase of the product that you're going to roll out or like, beta testing something for you, or even just being like a focus group to run an idea by before anything even exists yet. That's a fantastic way to get them involved really early, especially because sometimes they actually have like incredible skills. You might even end up using some of these people because if they're your early adopter community members, right? They probably are there because they like have some, innate interest in what you're doing or deep interest in it. So that's like just a great place to start. Just involve them in spaces where you think you can. Because if you try and do like constant community management right from the beginning, it's amazing for your long-term brand, but it is a ton of work. And you won't feel like it's getting the just desserts like right away.
And you've played this game at scale of like working at a company that did that and had a full team and like there was people. So what does it look like at scale? How many people are involved in building a community in an organization? What specific roles are there for that?
Yeah. It varies based on the kind of community that you're doing. So some of the companies that I was with are one of the ones that is online that I can talk about more, because I do consulting with community now. So I can't talk about all the company names, but many of them are household brands now that I get to work with, which is really cool. And a lot of them are community-based businesses. Like, they're designed around community. And so in those businesses, like, every role has some touch on community. But with TopTel, let's say, that I was with before, which is a public one, we were a community team responsible for engaging and building the sense of belonging and connection amongst the people that were already within the network. So TopTel is a big freelance network, like hiring tech on demand people. And so they're all over the world, like 140 countries. So I had a team in 6 countries, and our job was to make these people feel a sense of connection to each other and to the brand, so that ideally they stayed with us, because there was no exclusivity. They could freelance and do tech, like consulting work for other companies. But obviously, when we had good jobs, we wanted to put these great people into our jobs with our clients. And so we had functions that involved like running events for people online, running major programming for people. So someone who's like a programming manager. A program manager is a common role in community. Programs, again, can look very different at different companies. But for us, for example, we ran like a mentorship program. We ran a program teaching people how to be public speakers, because a lot of them were super intelligent in their field and very skilled and very senior in their field, but they wanted to be seen as like thought leaders now, right? So maybe some of that public speaking stuff was really well regarded. We had a program to have community leaders. So this is a big part of a lot of organizations that have community teams. There'll be somebody who runs like your ambassador program, your community leader program. People call it different things. This would be a program where you lift people up into these kind of like unofficial like community leadership roles, where they then represent your brand like out in the world, often totally volunteer. There are like, even for example, going back to that Lululemon example, they have people who are like ambassadors in the city who wear their clothes and run, yoga days and stuff. And most of them are totally volunteer. They just love the brand and they love yoga or whatever it is that they're facilitating. And so they facilitate stuff for people in person. And sometimes the company will give that person a budget to run that event. So they're not like booking a facility in there with their own dollar, but they're not themselves an employed person of the company. Those people are awesome, because those ambassadors are people who are going to like lead for you without getting paid, are a brilliant strategy for your business. Like, community as a strategy is incredibly smart, and more companies are realizing that they need that.
Now.
Yes.
Not before.
It's a bit of a funny wave. So I think a little while ago, not that long ago, people were realizing that community is super important. But then when the pandemic happened, it's even more important, right? Gotcha. People were really valuing it. It was like people were hiring community. It was awesome. After the pandemic, companies were shedding a lot of talent in general, right? Like, we saw a lot, especially in tech, which I was working in. Well, actually, in a lot of industries, and it's still happening today. And so then what happened there is that community teams were harder. It was harder for them to prove their return on investment. So ROI was more difficult, because you're not sales, right? In some, you're sales. So let's say in some sport brands, the community might literally lead to direct sales. In a group like where I was at TopTel at the time, we were engaging people that were already in our network to stay, but it's harder to prove, like, did what I do make them stay, or did the really great jobs we had available for them make them stay, right? So for us, it was a little tougher to delineate. They really value community from day one at TopTel, which was really awesome. But as an example, like, there's those different kinds of community, right? So if you can directly prove bottom line, amazing. In community, there's a lot of people that talk about within our peers of community builders that talk about how to show ROI, because everyone finds it hard. Like, it's a bit of a tricky industry. So then there were a bunch of layoffs of community people. I watched people in all different companies get laid off. Community teams just decimated. Like Meta, Facebook, they cut a whole community team or two, because they had teams in different departments. Amazing people that I saw running, diversity initiatives for communities in their companies and stuff all disappear. And so there was this like downturn, because I think because a lot of them had trouble proving their ROI, and companies were cutting anyway. So like, it wasn't just them, right? But it was
a financial decision.
Right, it was a financial decision based on, who do you have? What are they grossing for our company? We got to do it, right? So that kind of went down. Now we're seeing people like start to hire again. But I think the thread of it all, people do still know community is really important for you. And it's just like this secret sauce to your business taking off. If you look at a ton of companies that took off really well, community was a big part of it. Like Canva, big part of their story is the fact that they grew community. You were allowed to put in your own templates, right? And then you could use my template. Well, that's community. It's me sharing with you, and we don't work for the company. And then you could say, Margaux, thanks for that template. I loved it. It's like, companies using it intelligently are seeing the rewards.
That's
So when
cool.
you enter a company and your sole purpose is to make community,
Yeah.
what are the first 3 action items that you do?
I don't know that I'm the right person to ask that question to. I think it depends on the specific like business that you're in. When I'm consulting, I'm not just like coming in to start community out of nowhere, and so I have the same 3 steps like over and over, right?
Right.
Typically, it's like it's more nuanced. They have a certain strategy that they want me to help with, and it's often like a piece of what they're doing in community already,
Gotcha.
right? Otherwise, they would. There are sometimes where you do bring in a consultant for sure to figure out if you need community and like what that looks like. And I have great people I can refer them to if that's the case. But at this point for me, like a lot of my work is around how do we connect as people in this world where we are hyper connected with our phones, with social media, with technology, and yet we feel very disconnected. A lot of us feel very lonely. That could be within a community, but it could also be within your team, a remote group of people, a hybrid group of people. And so when I'm doing keynote speeches, it's often about that side of things and how you can help bridge that gap, whether that's for your association members, your startup, founders, your followers, your groups, your teams, because there's a lot of ways that we can look at it. And then I do a lot of work as an MC where I'm helping people in the audience connect to what's happening on stage and connect to each other so that because a lot of events, the biggest value when people are filling out surveys is partly the talks they see on stage and the wisdom and that they learn, they take away, but a lot of that review is on the people that they manage to connect with that can move their business forward.
You meet a lot of people just like going around the world, emceeing these places.
Yeah.
Do you have a best and worst connection that you've received from whether like having a conversation, be like, oh, I connected with that person right away.
Yeah.
I did not connect with that person at all.
Both happen
Yeah.
all the time, for sure. And the tricky thing is that sometimes the people you don't connect with could be great connections, but you just are at the wrong time of day. Like
Yeah.
I'm maybe exhausted from getting off stage. They lead with some part of their life that's like not the piece that relates to me maybe, but even though there might be this other piece that's like really connected. So it's funny sometimes. It's kind of hard to know all the time if it's like, I never think like someone's bad
Yeah, of
or
course.
whatever. And I think sometimes, there's people who I've met where someone later goes, oh, have you met them? And I go, yeah, like
think so.
I met them, but it didn't land for me. And they're like, oh, really? I thought you guys would really get along. So it's like it was probably just bad timing that day,
Yeah.
or like the wrong first topic that we talked about or something. It's hard to always put your best foot forward when you're meeting new people, right? Because we're coming with whatever kind of baggage we have that day. And again, like sometimes exhaustion because I'm traveling across the world and then I'm on stage. And when you talk for 8 hours or 10 hours and you're standing and talking for that long, which is what an MC job kind of is, it takes a lot out of you, even for someone who innately has a lot of energy and passion for my work. So yeah, but when you connect with someone quickly, that is really great. I think it's just like a feeling that you have, and it's reciprocal. Like your question before, it's like it's the right timing for both of you, and the right feeling from both of you, and the right like desire. Because sometimes you have good connection, but they're really busy during that event or something, and so you have to like pick it up later online, which is a big part of what I suggest to people when I'm doing talks about networking, right? Which is like my TED Talk and stuff. Yeah. It's that follow-up afterwards is so important, because if you feel a spark of some kind, likely they felt it too, but you just might have been both like in a rush at the event or wherever you were. So follow up and nurture that. And it's like, the little flame will grow into a fire, cheesiness. But it's true with relationships, like you do have to like keep putting the little twigs and putting the logs, right? It's like a nice analogy to just think of how if you send them one message on LinkedIn and never another one,
yeah.
of course, it's not going to lead to like a great relationship where you can ask them for a favor down the road or whatever, right?
Also, like online connecting with someone and in person connecting, there's like a right and wrong way to do it as well.
Yeah.
What's some experience you've had that have gone right and which ones have gone wrong, especially online?
Yeah. I can think of one right away that I did wrong, which was that I sent them, I remember, sometimes, okay, we'll restart this answer, but when you are online sometimes and you've been working all day, and so you have a bit of a formal tone of voice because you're in business and you're writing in a certain way, and then you go to like talk to your friend and you end up writing and they're like, are you inviting me to a business meeting, or are you like
literally did that yesterday?
Yeah, right, you did this. Okay. So one time I was trying to like re-spice up a relationship online, not a dating relationship, a business relationship, and I wrote it in a way that was so businessy by accident. Like I was just in that mode when I wrote it. And they ended up texting me, and I say this, I think I told the story at the beginning of my TED Talk actually. Yeah, they messaged me and were like, Margaux, like, why did you send me a like standard cut, paste, like awful message. And I was like, what do you mean I didn't? And I went back and read it. And it was so boring and formal and this was a person that I was friends with. And I didn't see all the time, but in the business community, we were friends in the business community, not just like acquaintances. But it sure sounded like we were this like cold kind of like an AI message that I sent. And so this was even me like unintentionally, I wrote it myself and I think I was trying to be so formal because I wanted to work with them in a more formal way, but we were kind of friends. So I think I was purposely writing it in this like businessy fashion, but it just, when you reread it, it just really didn't land. So there are ways you can do it wrong, even when you're, trying to do it right. I think one of the that's just a bit of a funny anecdote, but one of the things that people often get wrong is messaging too many times before the person messages you back. So if on LinkedIn you've sent me 4 messages and I haven't responded, just probably stop there, especially within too close of a timeline.
Yeah.
You're allowed to send more messages spread out if they're each one relevant to that person at that time.
And intentional about it.
And intentional. Yeah. So say you and I talked about going to events in the city that like Tech Thursdays. And I'm like, oh, I wish there were more because that one, I'm never free on Thursdays. Do you know of other ones? And you're like, I don't, but I'll keep you in mind. So down the road, you send me a message like, I found out about this other event, Margaux. I think you'd like it. And I don't answer you because I'm busy maybe or something. Yeah. A little while later, you find out about another one. And in this case, the reason you'd bother trying again with me is because maybe I'm a connection you want in this story. So you send another one, hey Margaux, I was thinking of you, I saw this event, I thought you might like it. That's smart actually, this is strategic. It's you being like, I'm gonna stay on Margaux's radar with something that she wants because she told me she wants it.
Value, yeah.
Then I'm not annoyed with you, right? I'm like, he's giving me value in these messages. So send a third one even. Cool, hey Margaux, I won't bother you anymore, but I saw another event, thought you might like it. If you want me to stop sending you events, let me know. Just thought you'd like it. That's cool, this is all good. But if it's 3 things of you asking me to buy off of you or come to something you're doing or give you something or mentor you or something like that, it's like if you're asking for something, 1, maybe 2 if it really means a lot to you, but give me a reason why it matters to me to do that thing with you. Yeah. So that's a common mistake that's had and we all get that.
100%.
I get a lot of that stuff. But the good side would be obviously doing those things from the good side, offering value, super common thing we need to think of. A lot of times people ask me how do I give value if I feel like I don't have anything to give, right?
Agreed.
If that person is public online in any way, you have something to give. You can give me your likes. You can give me a comment on my post because it's going to up it for me, right? Those are things you can give me that you don't need any special skills to give me, right? So there are things, but people forget you have a currency by giving me your attention online, especially if we're talking online, right? If it's in person, and I'm hosting an event and I'm selling tickets or something like that, come to it. That helps me. And then feel free to tell me that you helped me, that's cool because you did in that case, right? But the commenting of people's posts thing is such an obvious thing that people don't do.
But they do it so wrong.
And they do it wrong. So you have to do a long form answer that actually allows for a conversation. And this is actually hot.
Fire emojis don't work.
Right. Fire emojis don't work.
Got it.
This is a thing that LinkedIn actually, from if you talk to people on the inside, will tell you, people who work at LinkedIn, that long form comments that start a conversation are a really strong way to get your post ranked higher and your comments ranked higher and basically you trend more. So if let's say someone, I use this example often, if someone that in your network has won an award, so Johan's won an award for something or you won a pitch competition, if we're talking startup world, whatever. You could answer to that post and you could comment on it. You could give a thumbs up and you could say, hey, congratulations, that's awesome, exclamation point. Doesn't start a conversation. No. He might be like, thanks so much, because he likes to answer every single comment because it boosts his post. But it didn't go anywhere. A much better thing to do on that post, which takes equally as much time, because people complain to me about time, would be, Johan, wow, this is amazing. Cool, you can start with your same enthusiasm. Has this money you just won allowed you to start any new projects? Or will we see some new iteration of what you're working on since you won this competition, right? Something like that, because maybe you don't want to mention money or whatever in a little more subtle, but something like that allows them to answer in a meaningful way. It shows that you actually care. They then will also notice who you are. Because in the first one, hey, thanks, hey, thanks, hey, thanks, hey, thanks, they didn't log your name. But if you ask me something meaningful and I have to answer, I'm going to be like, oh, hey, Robin, who is this guy? That's cool. He actually asked me a meaningful question. If I have time, I'll click on the profile. But if not, maybe if you do it 2 or 3 times,
you recognize the name.
Then time number 4, Robin slips into my DMs on LinkedIn and asks me something. Hey, can you come on my podcast? Hey, can you do something? This is not what actually happened here, but let's say, hey, can you come on my podcast? If I had never heard of your show before and that's what happened, if I kept seeing your face and you're be meaningful with great comments and then you ask me something, I would look at your show at least. Whereas like sometimes if someone just like sends you a random invite to a podcast, you're like, do you even know who I am? Like, do you have any followers? What is this show? Like, is it your grandma's like podcast in the basement? Like, right, you don't know. And I don't have the time to like look into that all the time. But if there's a bit of recognition, there's a lot of psychology around this too. Things called like the mere exposure effect
100%.
and just like literally seeing someone makes you like them more. Like there's all this science behind it.
Just specifically talking about the podcast, we do this intentionally of like, if we want someone, we sent the first DM, nothing comes back, send an email, nothing comes back. We'll just get all your friends on the show.
Yeah.
And then good luck saying no.
Right.
Like,
It works for sure because you're like, they're on there. Like, I should be on there. Yeah.
Like
This is relating to a lot of like first impressions, but also equally as important. We all know first impressions matter, and they get you in places, they get you dates, they get you relationships, whatever you need, right? How important are second impressions? And how do you make a good one?
Yeah. Sometimes they're more important because your first impression might be so quick that, well, we all know the science behind first impressions. Like first impressions are incredibly important. But sometimes like that conference example, it's really fast. So you might be like, wow, I got a good vibe from that person. Second time around, maybe it's like the next day, the conference has some like mixer in the evening for the speakers or something that you go to or whatever. That's my example. But so you go to this thing and now you have time to actually sit with that person for 5 minutes and actually talk to them, or you're standing having a glass of wine or something. That is when they're going to really decide whether you're worth like a longer term relationship outside of that global event where you might never physically see their face again for a year or two or more.
Right.
So it's super important, but I think I'm talking about it as if the second impression assumes you have more time with them. Because if it's just like, if they're two quick passing things, the first one's still the most important. But if you get more time with them the second time around, in this example like I give, then it is important that you like show interest in that person, you ask them questions, right? There's a bunch of people who would show that, like School of Greatness podcast, right? Lewis Howes. He talks about how when he left sports and went into this like world that he wanted to be in now, or even just like was debating entering the business world, he would go to these events with high ticket people because he was an athlete, he got access, and he would just ask them about themselves. And at the end of the night, when they would say like, who do you like the best? Everyone would love him because they let them talk about them. He let them talk about themselves. So there is something in that, but it's, offering them value in that second conversation right away. It's all those things. Yeah, the second impression is still very, very important because they haven't like locked in whether you're their, future bestie or not at that point, or if they trust you for business reasons or something, right? Might have scratched the surface the first time, second time around, they're trying to figure out like, can they back up that stuff I felt about them the first time around, Did they actually have the clout in business or in whatever reason why we're connecting?
I think it works for people like us because we're extroverts. We like having that conversation.
Yeah.
But for the people who have to make that mental decision of like, I have to go up to this person and talk to somebody. Like I would consider myself someone, if I'm interested in you, I want us to say something, I like something about you, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
Nice jacket, nice hair, nice XYZ. Or I'm curious about XYZ about you, right? Similar to when you were in Australia, you're like, I need to make friends.
Yeah.
Many people might be, I need to make friends, but this is hard to make friends. I have to fight a limiting belief in my brain that says, okay, like I have to make that first step. So how do you fight with those people? And how do you convince those people that, yes, they know the reward is good, but they have to take the first step?
Yeah. I feel for those people because they're coming from what they feel like is a place of deficit.
Yeah.
But the thing to remember is that they don't need to meet us. They don't need to meet the total extroverts all the time, right? Because we're a bit scary, right? In these events that we're talking about. But guaranteed, there's another wallflower at that event right over there, right?
But who also isn't talking to anyone either.
Right. But who could be the CEO of the company?
Sure.
You don't know.
Yeah.
In fact, I was at an event in Latvia a couple years ago, and I was I was speaking actually on one of the stages there. And they had this like speaker event after, and I was exhausted. Like I had traveled internationally, I had spoken, I had done a lot of networking already, and I hadn't eaten. And this event kind of had like weird food, not a lot of it. So at some point I was like, I just need to find somewhere to sit and eat some food. I don't care if I'm sitting alone, which is like rare for me. I like to network, right? So I go get this food, and there's this like techie kind of guy, like, very standard looking, like sitting in the, like just not standing out. I mean, he's sitting at a table in the corner and there's like a seat with him, and all the other tables are like loud, bustling, like full of people, or it's like standing room kind of vibe. So I'm like, maybe that guy will be fine if I just sit with him, and then he doesn't look, he's on his phone anyway, like I can just sit and eat because that's what I wanted to do. So I just sit there and I eat. And I'm like so happy to be at this quiet guy's table who clearly like is not interested in networking in the same way, right? He's maybe one of these people I'm thinking. Obviously, we're sitting there for a while. I'm eating. It's nice humans. We're all at this like special event. So the guy, like, we start talking a little bit, and we're talking, and then he's talking about his business, like the business he works at a bit and stuff like that. And eventually I'm like, so like, what do you do? Like, we'd been talking for 15 minutes maybe. I didn't know what he did yet because it wasn't the point. Like, I just kind of was like tired and I was like, if we talk, great. If not, great. He's like, oh, I'm the CEO of Bolt. So for people that don't know, Bolt's like the largest ride-sharing company in Europe and other countries. Like here, it's Uber, right? But out there, it's like, or maybe it's second largest, but it's massive in terms of like ride-sharing companies. And I had just been like chit-chatting with the CEO. So like, you don't know if the wallflower person, the point of that story, right, is like they could be an equally important contact that just don't like the networking game, just like you don't like it. So go have a casual conversation with them, and who knows what that could turn into. At the end, he was telling me they were hiring a whole community team. At the time, I was still working in community, right? I could have gone potentially to work for, like, so it was a connection that was incredible, and it was totally by accident. So you never know. There are other people who are at your like level of energy that you can interact with without needing to pretend to be someone that you're not.
Do you have like go-to questions when you're at these networking events?
I know a lot of people that are in my like world of connection. The best is just like make sure the questions are open-ended and allow that person to talk about something that interests them. I play around with stuff based on like what I want to talk about in this world sometimes.
So what are some?
So a little while ago, I started asking people just like something that they're to tell me about what in their life they're passionate about. Because it allows them to not have to talk about work if they don't want to. Like they can talk about their kids. They could talk about picking up cross-country skiing or traveling or whatever, right? Sometimes I ask them like what is something that they're looking forward to coming up. And if you time box it, it can be really strong. So sometimes I ask people like, what was the best thing that you did this week? Because then they have to think of something positive. Their mind is hitting those like positive endorphins or dopamine, right? Or serotonin, whatever, all those good things in our brain. And it is something recent. And so it brings up like a good memory recently. And it doesn't make them have to think about like the meaning of life. Because sometimes you're like, what are you passionate about? And someone's like, I don't know, I'm just working right now. Like I can't think of what
Let me answer this.
It's like too hard. So you give them like an easy time box question, but it allows them to talk about whatever they want. Because again, they could be like, my best thing this week was when I like fell cross-country skiing, but I'm learning and I so enjoy it, right? If that was one of the examples I was giving. But it also might be like a work thing if they want to talk about work. They might be like, I hit a milestone at work that I've been trying to hit for a long time. So it gives them a lot of space, but it makes them think immediately and it makes them happy because you're forcing them to think about something positive.
I'm gonna tell you my go-to question.
Yeah, give me yours.
It's super weird, but it works every time. What kind of bread do you like?
Okay.
And the reason I asked
it breaks the ice.
It breaks the ice. And it's one of those questions where it's so silly.
It's so random.
It's like, A, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
Yeah.
And second is like, it's weird enough where you feel like you want to answer.
Right.
And that leads into like a whole different genre of conversations.
Right. And you know that you're not like being serious about it or whatever.
I don't hate that one, but the one I do hate, and I love Vin, but like high-low buffalo, like there's no way I'm going up to someone and being like, tell me the highest moment, lowest moment, and a buffalo moment.
No.
And like
in many countries, people wouldn't even understand what buffalo means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My question from picking back off what he was saying is like, why do most networking events suck?
Because they don't design anything to help you connect with people. A bar with alcohol is not a networking event. It's just a bar with alcohol and people who are forced to like stand around, and that is the feature of the event, the bar with alcohol. We actually do it so wrong, all these events, right? When you've been to an event that has some unique aspect to it, you immediately network better, like connect better, right? Like the word networking is, I know it has a bad connotation, but for sake of this conversation, like you will connect with people better and are able to network better when there's something like interesting or different about that event. But so often we're like, it's a networking event, so put up some high top tables and get a bar. Alcohol actually like deters from strong networking. It's because it makes people like, I guess, arguably like more like feel safer behind this drink or more confident or something because they're drinking. But like nowadays we don't drink that much anyway. Like that's going down. It's not a, lubricant for social activities anymore in the way that like people thought they once wanted to use it for. So don't design the feature of your event to be a bar. Design it to be like some way they can interact. Maybe it's like as simple as having like a ring toss game on the wall, right? Like just something that people can do. And obviously we can get way better than that. But like just something that's the focus other than alcohol. Having people, like you could have badges, if it's an event with badges, you could have them fill out in their registration form in advance, not just like the name of their company, but 3 things they love talking about. So you've got these 3 bullets at the bottom of their name badge, so you can look at it and quickly go, oh, whoa, you like talking about dogs. Like I used to be in a dog showing competition, right? Like who knows? You can connect over like weird things because you just ask them to like put true things they want to talk about. It's an icebreaker, so you don't need a funny question because it's right there on your badge and I can pick something to talk to you about that I want to talk to you about in your top 3. So there's things like that you can do. You know, you can have questions on the tables and stuff like that, but they don't tend to work that well because they're often just paired with an event that otherwise has no instruction for you. There's like a question there that people who are a little less comfortable will use those questions. So that is nice for them. It allows like different levels of communication, right? So if you and I, we don't need that, we're probably not going to use it. But like someone who's just sitting there kind of by themselves and someone sits down, they might be like, so, yeah, have you climbed a mountain before? The question's asking us, right? It allows them a little bit of an icebreaker. So we have to design for like all levels of people at our events, but the idea at the end of the day is there needs to be intention. You have to design for networking. Even the layout of the room makes a difference, whether you introduce people or not. One thing that I would highly recommend, if you have bigger events and you're truly trying to get people to connect, it's like a part of your goal for 2026, hire wing people or create your team to have them. There's a great company, Wing People company that I am affiliated with that I can share the name of. A lady named Shayna runs it. She's out of Europe now, but she was from Winnipeg originally. Cool. So she has people all over the world as part of this company. And they literally offer that as a paid service. Like it exists today, you can do it.
Smart.
Yeah. TJENA is like the website name, Jenna, but but if you look up Wing People and me or Shayna, you can find it. But I didn't actually mean to even plug that, but the answer to the question truly is that your team can do that if you don't want to pay for it. Just assign people on your team who are meant to make connections at the event, and they also have to have rules such as do not talk to the same person for an hour. Your job that night is to connect people. So if this guy should meet that guy, bring them together and leave it. Go to the next, do it again. Help people who are standing against the wall by themselves, bring them into the room and introduce them to someone. Having humans from your company responsible for that is brilliant. They shouldn't get sucked into one thing in the corner. If you also empower them to do that job, it's less likely they will get sucked into something because you've like told them this is their function of the event. We often run networking events where we're just like a participant equally as everybody else as the ones running it, like as the company in charge. Why are we doing that? If your whole point was to make people like happy with you and connect with each other through you, like that's usually why you're running a networking event for your members or your association or your team or whatever. So curate it. Like be those people to intentionally set people up. And if you don't have the ability to do that because you're too small of a group, then you can hire somebody to do it. There's literally people who will do it for you. But if you can do it yourselves, amazing.
What are the key characteristics those people should have? Those wingmen or the wingwomen?
Actually, the best is not how like effervescent their personality is. The best is if they are people who truly understand what others like do for a living or like whatever the function is of that event.
Right.
So like I know somebody in Winnipeg, for example, who she knows everything going on with tech companies, startups, the government, funding, all this stuff. She knows everything. It's incredible. Young woman, and she would be able to be that person in a heartbeat, even though she doesn't need to be the flashiest person there. But she knows, like she understands my job to its core and your job to its core and who you are, and she's seen you online and she knows what you're about. And so she's just very aware. So the best type of person is someone who is knowledgeable on other people, because then they can like make really strong connections meaningfully for you. For example, if I am the top 1% user of LinkedIn, let's say, I'm like top, I use it every day, I have lots of followers, I know all their algorithms, all this stuff. Do I want to go to a LinkedIn event that they're hosting where just like anyone who ever has heard of LinkedIn can go? Probably not, because when I'm that super user, I want to be in this narrower group. I want to be invited to a group that's more exclusive with only other people who are using it to the level that I'm using it, right? And so that's an easy example to understand, like, oh, of course we would want then different levels of participation and different opportunities and rewards to interact with those people in that same way. It also gives you something to try and work toward or achieve, right? That space of exclusivity, whether it's access to the new product, whether it's even going back to our 101 of how to start a community if you don't have time. If maybe for some people, the reward of being able to give feedback on the next iteration of the app coming out or whatever it is pretty cool for them. In fact, the higher you get up the chain of someone's level of involvement, the more likely that they want to be rewarded with the ability to give you advice.
Yep.
Because they feel so bought in. They're like, I know what I want and I'm your super user. So let me tell you, product team or whoever, right? Let me tell you what I can help with, because I know all these people that are in this little circle. Let us tell you, let us be part of those sales decisions or product decisions or whatever, right? That would be a huge benefit to some of these people to feel like they're in that inner circle, even if they're never paid for it.
Did you have to be intentional about this? Like, you did this naturally innate and like was willing to make friends and like do this, but then when you had to sit down and think of like, what are the actual things that I do unintentionally? Did you have a period where you like went through with like learning and researching these things and like putting things over? That's why I do that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I do that. Now I understand why it is powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For example, that story I told earlier about the friend who, told me I was a connector and I didn't realize at the time. This was a long time ago. Then I got into this line of work and researched it more. And I think there were little light bulbs always kind of along the way. It's now that I've leaned into it, 100%, in my definition of who I am now is a connector, right? And my TED Talk is about how to make online connections. A lot of the work I was doing at the time online was around connecting people that were in big tech and stuff, and brands online and associations. And I was also doing some of that work for startups at like a smaller level. So it grew to become something that was the only thing that I focused on. As an MC now, again, like I was saying before, it's like same thing. I'm helping people connect, but it's a different medium. But at the end of the day, no matter what, the core thing is that I want to help people connect, right? It's just like you're doing it in different ways. So I do it as a keynote speaker, I do it as a consultant, I do it as an MC. But at the core, it is me helping people connect. And I am really happy that I got to that point because it is such an important thing in this very disconnected world that we live in. I feel like the research just helps back up the things that a lot of us already know, but some of us learn by, doing and experiencing, and some of us really need the data behind it, right? We need to know that it's proven scientifically and with research. And I find it like oddly fun to read research papers about the psychology behind this stuff or the sociology. And it is really kind of a funny full circle because my university degree was in sociology and I didn't use it properly afterwards. And now it's like full circle because literally I'm helping and looking at the study of groups of people and why they do things that they do. It was kind of a wild thing to come back around and realize like, oh, I guess I always did like that. I just didn't use it for a little while. And then, the rest of my career.
Did you have to make a tough decision of like going into this world?
Going into community was a gradual progression. The tough decision was leaving standard corporate work and an American salary as a Canadian, full-time at a global company where I could work anywhere I wanted in the world to be a solopreneur. That was a hard decision. That was a very scary decision. I think a lot of people struggle with that, but we don't, and we talk about it on shows like this and stuff, but when you're making it, you feel like nobody has ever made that decision before. You're like, what if I go broke and I'm an idiot and I have nothing and no one wants to hire me and like I left, a good paying job and like the job market's tough right now, like everything that you can think of you go through. That was definitely hard, but I will say, and this is I think like a beautiful message, even though it's scary, is that when I jumped in with 2 feet, things started to happen. You have to, I believe, and it's my own experience, but I believe you have to commit fully to that thing that you want or it's going to be very hard to get it. This is why side hustles for people remain side hustles forever, even though they might really want them, because it takes a lot of bravery to say, I am going all in on that thing, whether it fails or succeeds. But for it to succeed, you have to do that, right? So I am lucky, and there is a total like side to this where you have to have the right circumstances. And so people might be like yelling at the screen, like Margaux, it's not fair. We can't all just jump into 2 feet. I have kids, I have, a mortgage, I have all this stuff. Totally get that. I was fortunate enough to have the kind of circumstances where I just said to myself, what is the worst case scenario? And I picked a number. I was like, if I only make this much money, it was a lot less than I was making at my American company, 50K. Right? Yeah, it was $50K. You saw maybe another interview where I said this. I gave myself a certain amount of money, but I said to myself, if I do this for a year and that's all I make, but it involves me being able to like get paid to travel the world, speak at different events, try and work on my own that I've always kind of thought maybe I should do. Other people thought I should work on my own, which was funny. I had other people telling me all throughout my career, well, I can't wait till you start your own business. It's going to be amazing, right? And I was like, what? Me doing what? Like, what's the idea? What am I doing in this business? I wanted someone to like give it to me, right? One day it just kind of all opened up. It all just made sense.
Why was connection so important to you?
I feel like I've benefited so much from the connections that I've made and the life that I got a chance to live with those, unique experiences as a young person, where you realize that it's the people that drive everything in your life, even before I knew scientifically that was the case, right? I think I just got lucky in a way that my natural personality was the right fit for this world. And when I learned that these were things that you could actually get paid to do, right? It kind of all just fell into place.
I had a very similar conversation past week of someone who was in that world of I want to go all in on this.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, what should I do? Is this worth it? I was like, no, it's not worth it. And he's like, what? I was like, what are you going to miss out on? There's nothing to miss out. He's like, no, but I want the XYZ. I want this. I want this. I want this. I was like, okay, that's the reason you should do it then.
Yeah.
But the thinking of oh, if I don't do it, the things I will miss out on was the driving factor of why he maybe will end up doing it.
Yeah.
Was that one of the reasons of you choosing that?
That's a good question. Maybe subconsciously it was part of the reason. I had been told for a long time that I should start a business, and I just didn't have the right idea. For me, I think it partly, it was my circumstances that came together at the right time. The week that I was in Prague hosting a gig, and I still had a full-time job. They were doing crazy amounts of layoffs. It was like writing on the wall that my team probably wasn't going to make it. This was layoff number 4. Half the company was leaving. And so our minds were already thinking what's next, right? And that same week, my talk got onto TED.com, which happens to less than 1% of TEDx talks. And so then it was this push that I needed. It felt like fate. If everyone's ever felt some kind of version of that, it's not something I would have talked about before, fate and
do you believe in that
things
stuff
like
or no?
I didn't historically.
Okay.
I feel like now I totally do. I feel like every sign was be a speaker, you're crazy if you're not a speaker. Because it was I was literally speaking in Prague, already flown somewhere on someone else's dime to communicate to people while this was all happening. But it was just this side thing, right? But that's a pretty big gig to just be a side thing, right? To be flown from another country. Then I was, that same week when all that was going down was the same week my talk got into TED.com. Okay, fate again, or sign pointing to it. Then I got home, and the week I got home, a major brand, a company that does consulting for community building, kind of you'd hire an agency for marketing. There's an agency for community building. That's a really amazing one out of the UK. And I got a message in my inbox just out of nowhere because they'd seen me on stage doing community, keynoting and emceeing. And they were like, hey, any chance, nothing was online yet at this point that I was no longer with this company. Any chance you would be available to do a couple months with us for this major household name client, starting right away because we need someone with your expertise. We still need to interview you quickly, but probably it's good. Can you do it?
Jeez.
And I was working out. I remember I was working out at my house in the morning, and I had no job at this point. And I was like, what am I going to do? Is speaking realistic? I'll probably try and get another community job because that's the safe thing to do, right? It was thing number 3 being work for yourself. It was just incredible. It was a couple month contract. It wasn't ever meant to be a full-time thing. So there were all these signs. So yeah, then I started to totally believe in the universe. I wish I could have figured it out myself earlier without the universe needing to give me so many signs. But I'm glad it did because all those things, what they did was they gave me the confidence to trust the process, especially the TED Talk thing. That was a dream I had since I was a kid, but it came at the right time. I actually was supposed to do one in 2020, and then the pandemic hit, and they took our spots away, and then you had to reapply, and it was a really scary thing to reapply because you were I had this dream and it was taken away, and now I have to just be one of the people just in the pile again. You were but you already liked me. Can I just? But I had a totally different topic the second time around. So again, it was holy fate. It felt like the pandemic interrupting my dream of TED was meant to be because I had a different topic. And it would not have been the right topic for the catapult that this one gave me at this point in time. And the fact that it got into TED.com and stuff like that, I can't imagine that would have just perfectly happened with the other one as well. I doubt it, right? Because it was part of the reason that it got picked up in my deductions, because they don't tell you, but is that it was a timely topic that filled a gap they didn't have in their content, which was research I actually did to see if it was a gap in their content or not, and it was. And so then all that wasn't things I had thought of in 2020. So everything just, again, it was so many signs, but it gave me, at the end of the day, the whole thing, all of it did, was give me the confidence to trust this career that I was going to try. Because I was like, if not now, when?
Yeah. When everything started working and the seed that you planted started flourishing, what did that feel like?
It's a funny roller coaster of feelings, actually. Part of you feels like, I'm amazing. This is going to be so great. My new career is the perfect thing I've always dreamed of. And then the next day, you feel overridden with uncertainty. Because what I'm doing is like gig work, essentially, right? It's like one event, the next event, one client, the other client, one event, the next event. That event might love you and bring you back 1 year, but then the next year be like, well, we actually decided we want to change it up so our audience gets a change or something. Some events hire you for 20 years. They're like, we want consistency, we love you, our audience loves you, we're keeping you. But you don't know. And so you're like, next year, will I make what I'm making this year? There's no guarantees. So my first year was good. We're just ending year 1 here, basically, of a full year. But next year, you feel like you're starting from zero again. So even though there's things that are positive that are happening, there's so many feelings of uncertainty and fear at the same time that constantly come over me. Like I literally just posted on LinkedIn about it 2 weeks ago or something. It started with, I'm scared, was the start of my post. But then for the outside world, people see me and they see all these countries I'm at and stuff, and they're like, she's crushing it, it's amazing. And you're like, yes, I'm going cool places, but it doesn't mean I'm making $1 million. Like I'm definitely not, you know? It's like I'm still in this, like, I basically have a startup kind of, right? Yeah. If it's my own solopreneur startup. Yeah. So it's a journey, and it will be kind of indefinitely because it's a weird industry that I've chosen to be in. Like being a professional speaker is the industry essentially, first and foremost.
Yeah. Would you change anything about it?
No. I tried to like think of something for a second there. That's why I was like, would I? I mean, if I could like magically snap my fingers, I would just have like all the super high paid gigs all over right away, you know? But the like, not the hustle, because I don't love that word, but the doing it yourself and building it yourself leads you to feeling more like success and validation and knowing how to get it again because you've done it, right? So I need to take some time now for like an analysis phase of what worked and what didn't at the end of the year here. And I do all these like year-end planning exercises that I did when I had normal work, when I had a standard career as well.
What does that look like when you analyze?
Actually, a friend of mine, Alex Drysdale, who's a business guy too, used to have a company doing cricket protein powder. He did a TED Talk about it many years ago, actually. We're good friends, and he and I used to do some of this like annual planning stuff together. But there's some great exercises that you can do to kind of map out like what works. So there's obvious stuff like look at where your revenue came in and things like that, which even like, you know, I'm like, okay, clock's ticking, I gotta do that. But that's like an easy, obvious thing. I really like, and we do like a series of different exercises. We sit down for like a whole day, get tea and like order Uber Eats and just like, you know, sit at the table. Well, I drink tea, whatever, I don't know what he drank. Yeah. But one of the ones that's kind of fun, that's super easy for anyone who's just like, I want to start doing this, but I don't know where to start. Have a couple columns on a piece of paper. In the first column, put a list of anything you spend a concerted amount of time on in a week. So sleeping, eating, watching TV for a lot of people, right? Working. If you have like one normal job, just put working. If you have kind of a bunch of different things, feel free to put those in there. Working out, exercising, spending time with your family, whatever. Put all the things in there that are like obvious things that take up like a decent amount of time every week. Yeah. Then in the next column, write down how many hours you spend on those in a week. Many things like watching TV for a lot of people is like 8 to 10 hours, right? When you actually add it up, like it seems crazy to say that, but like one night you binge and you're at 4 already kind of thing. Yeah. So put that all in. Then in the third column, on a level of 1 to 10, put in the amount of satisfaction you get from that thing. Yeah. It's okay if TV is a 10 satisfaction. That's okay. Maybe you need that because your life is so insane. 2 years ago when I did this, my TV watching was probably about that. It was like 8 hours or something, or maybe more some. It was like, you know, it's like tough. You give yourself an average in the column of how much. But I ranked it an 8 in satisfaction, and I did not reduce my TV watching at the time. Now I have significantly, but for different reasons. But at the time, I was tired and stressed and worked a lot and was traveling a bunch. And when I sat down to watch TV, I wanted to shut my brain off. It was like time where I could just do that. Some people will argue that you never should do that. There's other ways to shut your brain off. Totally fair. At the time, I was like, and again, I've reduced since for different reasons, but at the time, I was like, that's okay. I'm okay with the fact that I watch that much. And I was looking at my whole list going like, I might reduce other places, but that actually, I need that, I think. Because when I'm on, right? Like I'm this energy you're getting now in like most scenarios. So I'm like, I give myself that permission. But if you're already kind of like not spending a lot of time with the other things you need to do and whatever, and this is just like you're watching too much for no reason, it's like maybe you want to reduce it. But that's all, you have the power. When you look at the piece of paper, the cool thing is that you get a sense of where you're spending your time, and we don't often realize that. So it's a very easy exercise, because when you're feeling too busy and you can't get your work done, or you're not spending enough time with your family or your friends, right? We just went over how much human connection matters and our friends matter and spending time with them. You can easily see, like, if spending time with friends on that list is 1 hour a week, because you only really fit in one friend walk or something and it's pretty short, then, or one coffee with a friend, then, maybe give that one a circle and go, where can I save some time somewhere else? And your time in a week, by the way, should add up to like waking, like it should add up to the exact number of hours we have in a week, because you're including sleeping in there, right? So it should add up. Don't, make sure it's not way over. You've got your time wrong then, and be honest with yourself on where you're spending your time. People are like, only 2 hours of TV. You're like,
4 hours of TikTok.
But scrolling social media should be one of the line items for a lot of people. I think I'm very lucky that I don't scroll social media. I don't know how I've managed to like avoid it, but it's just like I didn't start, and now that I'm aware of it, now that I'm aware of it,
just goes down after
now I don't, like, I know you shouldn't do it, so now I don't do it, right? It's like, it's a habit. I have other bad habits, right? Like, we all have bad habits, but mine are treats, and I brought you guys treats today, even, right? My bad habit is treats, so,
Lights, cameras off, emceeing off. Who's Margaret behind the camera?
I'm a lot quieter than people might realize when I'm in my downtime alone. Socially, I am not. I'm loud all the time and talk a lot. But I have a side to me, that people don't see for sure. Like I get home, I put on my sweatpants, I read a book, or I watch TV, or I clean the house, or I do whatever, and I don't talk while I do those things. Yeah, I'm like a normal human.
You don't wear a blazer all the time?
I don't wear a blazer all the time. Most of the time, but not all the time.
Do you have to remind yourself that you can talk when you're alone? If you spend enough time alone.
Too much time alone,
And you don't say a word, you have to like.
No, it's like if I'm in a zone of time alone and my phone rings and it's someone I want to talk to. Like, I hope my brother listens to this today, because I was supposed to talk to him before this and we didn't talk. But I look at it and I'm like, I'm not answering that call right now. Like, I'm in my quiet time. Like, I don't have the energy to answer it. My family gets mad at me because I don't do phone calls really. But it's because my job involves talking. When I'm physically present, I give my presence. Like, I am there with all my energy, or I won't be there. I'll be at home being quiet. So it's like, there is this other side. People think I just like never stop. People who date me are like, oh, I didn't, like at first they're like, I don't think I can like handle this, right? But then at home, I'm like softer person, I'm a quieter person. I still get excited about things. I'm passionate about stuff. But like, I think being passionate is amazing. Like, I love being around people that care about things and want to get excited about conversations. And that might mean they're also passionate in like a, hard way sometimes, but it's like, at least they're bringing that energy. Also, like, I grew up at this cabin in the woods that had no electricity. So it was water access only, no electricity. And so I grew up like, helping chop wood in the forest, not around a lot of people other than my family. And so that makes me like really care a lot about my family. In fact, after this tonight, my parents have just been in the UK for a month. They clearly instilled travel bugs in us. Or more than a month, I think. They just got back right now. So I'm going to go visit them, bring them some treats. I already left flowers in their place. Like, I have a very caring side to me, but there's not that many people that see it, because I'm this like social version of me with most people publicly. But people who are my close friends or my close family, I am gone a lot. I don't have the same like emotional softness as a lot of women have. That is a beautiful thing that women bring to the world. But I do like care that you have a good time, care that you're good, want to make sure that we have new experiences together. Like, I bring that kind of friendship a lot of the time. But it just looks different when I'm in my downtime away from like the public scene. Yeah.
We mentioned this, and it comes back to like first impressions kind of, and forming connections too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a very silly question. What's your go-to date to form a really good connection?
Like, if I'm dating, like
if you're going out for a date, do you have like
watch a movie?
Go to the movie theater.
Go to the movie theater
and sit side by side. You know what? I hated that idea of a date, even when we were teenagers and everyone was doing it. Like, it was like, I just knew as a human that was not a good idea, even when it was like a very common date plan. I try and do something active if I can, not necessarily like a run club, but like, if you can. Like, one time I went canoeing on the river one time, something like, whatever the person might be, and maybe they're into playing pool or darts or something.
Try
if you can
bouldering.
also let them show you something they're good at, people feel like really good. Men feel really good about that. Sorry, guys, it's true. It's true. That doesn't always
Or you
work,
can lose
though.
on purpose. You can lose on purpose.
Yeah.
You can let them win.
That doesn't always work. But I'm too competitive for that. Yeah, no, but I don't know if I have like an obvious go-to, but I do like to go for like walks on the frozen river in the winter. But like date one, that's also not great because you're beside each other, so you're not like looking at each other. So it's a tricky thing.
So you'd prefer to look at someone.
So this is
shot.
this is a funny thing. Interview across the table, not great.
Yeah.
Standing beside each other or sitting beside each other facing forward, not great.
Oh, okay.
You actually want, because it's kind of the same thing. You're never really making that like eye contact connection that actually makes a difference.
Gotcha.
Like when you look at the things that help people connect, we didn't talk about this because it's like it feels 101, but body language and eye contact and things like that are actually incredibly important. I'm a very physical person with friends, business connections, and dates. It works really well when you're dating because the person like knows that if you like them, if you touch them. And again, it's not inappropriate, like just like, on the shoulder or something when you walk by. But in business, like I'm still a physical person, like in general, but it's part of my like networking connection, like vibe. I'm this like warm person. So men, women, whoever, like there'll be some kind of physical contact, again, in an appropriate way.
Yeah, of course.
We can like teach people a whole other conversation one day. But it does make a really big difference. Also using someone's name a bunch. I'm just like, we're thinking of these random good tips now. Sport coaches, hockey coaches, use names all the time because they're coaching, so they're talking to their players, so they use their name often. They use it though often outside of the arena as well. If you meet a hockey coach, like especially like I was down in the US one time. So one guy, I remember to this day, his name was Dane. I don't know anything else about him. I don't even know what team he coached because I was in some weird event. But it was like a small group, personal kind of vibe. And I was kind of new in this group, and he kept talking to me and saying my name. I'm sure he was talking to everyone else the same amount. But because every time he would talk to me, he would say my name, I felt like I was like singled out in a positive way. Like he really wanted to know Margaux's opinion. But it was just a tactic that he had learned to make people like trust him more. Like when he needs his players to trust him, he uses their name.
Teachers do the same thing.
Yes, teachers do the same thing. And it's amazing. So you can use that tactic too, right? When you meet someone, not only to just not forget their name, but also to make them feel like you care about them, use their name a bunch of times. There's all these like really sneaky things. I thought you were going to ask me like something negative about when I first do it, but
I thought he was going to ask what's your favorite type of bread.
right?
That's what
Definitely.
That's such a good question.
Definitely sourdough.
No,
yeah, it's a good option.
sourdough is a great. Have you ever tried making sourdough?
No.
You see where I'm going with this question?
No,
Intentional.
actually.
Intentional.
Come on,
I did make focaccia though once.
Hey,
Lots of salt,
it
lots
works,
of oil.
it works. Don't
Incredibly
take my
bad for
question,
you.
though.
Yeah.
How have you grown as a solopreneur that you haven't grown, that you wouldn't have grown as a corporate girly?
Yeah.
Is that the term? I don't know.
Yeah, right? That's the formal term, I think.
Okay.
Corporate girly. Yeah. Yeah. Badass B. Yeah, something like that. There's still a swear in there, so. I feel like I need to go think about this question. I'm going to answer for you today, but I feel like it's a great question because I've only really trusted myself in this role for just over a year. I left like in mid-October from corporate work last year. And so it is something I don't think I've like sat down and thought about, like what did I gain from doing this? But if I just like think off the top of my head, I think no matter what, as a solopreneur, you gain a lot. I have pride in what I've done in the last year for sure. But when you're kind of moving all the time, like hustling, trying to figure out what your business looks like and how you make money and how you keep that ROI good and all those things, you don't really stop to remember and celebrate the things that you did along the way. I had my best event of the year just a few weeks ago, so it came like right at the end of the year. I was flown to Dubai to host the AI stage at the largest tech show in the world.
wow.
And it was my highest paycheck of the year as well, because Dubai, well, you know. But that was incredible. At the beginning of the year, I never would have thought that that was something that I would do. Like, I believed in myself to do it, but I'm like, how do you even find that? Like, how does that come? Who do you have to meet for that to happen? So much of what I've achieved is through networking, by the way. And this is like, I obviously have to say that, but it's 100% true. The more I'm in this industry, the more I think the speaking industry is hugely just referral based. And you need those warm connections to get anything in life. I mean, literally, we don't succeed alone.
Yep.
Even if you're selling something to someone you never meet, that's a person. So you're not succeeding alone. They are a human buying your thing, right? So in the last year, I think I've learned that like I can do it, you know, as much as I like always knew I could, it's you like back it up with results. But the reason it's hard to answer that question is because you don't stop to realize the successes that you've had. I have a couple friends where we try and do that for each other. We try and like, you know, open a bottle of bubbly or go out for dinner or celebrate that thing that the person did. Yeah. There's this thing I saw, my friend saw it actually, where you get a couple really nice bottles and you write on it what you want to achieve one day, and then you shelve them, and then when you achieve that thing, you and your friends open it together.
So Dave Portnoy does the same thing, but he puts people's names on it that he wants to see burn.
Like a negative version.
Yeah, he's like, so once they go down, I'll open the bottle.
Oh my God. People have different things that make them happy.
It's the same.
Does it make him happy? Or
It does.
I don't
He's
know.
petty. He's petty like that.
I don't know. Mine are much more positive.
I like that idea.
Yeah, it's a fun idea. We did that for our TEDx talks, and then we were the other girl who was Jane Helbrecht, who did hers at the same time as me.
Yeah.
We were in the same cohort and we're good friends. And we both got editor's pick. And when you get editor's pick, we were watching because we were trying to learn the system in advance. It's very hard to figure out. You have no idea. But when you get editor's pick right away on TEDx, that means your talk is on the YouTube. Just the TEDx YouTube, not the TED YouTube. They're different, right? And not the TED website, which means you don't have your name indexed on the TED website. You only are on the TEDx YouTube. But YouTube has great reach, so you know if someone's Googling you, they can still find it. And a lot of people don't even know the difference, right? So depending on how well your talk does, it doesn't matter. But when it does well, it's because it got editor's pick. So basically, they dump videos on their TEDx every day, like 20 videos a day at least on the TEDx YouTube, because they're getting them from all over the country now, right? All over the world, pardon me, now. So if you are in the dump and you're 19 of 20 that get posted that day, or like 2, I guess, of 20, like if you're thinking about it that way, you're on page 2 or 3 of their YouTube before you even go live, like the second you go live. So people immediately aren't like finding you on the homepage. If you get editor's pick, they have a playlist and you stay at the top of it and the top of their YouTube page for like days before they put another video above you, because they only put one editor's pick every like week or so. So rather than being like page 4, day 1, page 20 by day 2, you're at the top of the page for a few days. The difference in views is like, we were looking, the average TEDx talk is like 200 views in the first like little while, month. The average editor's pick is 20,000 or 12 to 20 we were seeing. So it's like a huge jump immediately.
You're playing a game.
So, I mean, you don't know what they're going to give you,
Yeah.
but if you get that, it's like hugely beneficial. So Jane and I both got that. It was super exciting. So we opened these bottles, and we waited for like each one. They came out separately because it was editor's pick. They had waited to come out. So the rest of our group, of our cohort, got dumped on the first day, and we weren't there. And we were like, oh my God, are we not going up at all? We actually thought negative at first because there's rules with TED. You can't like promote a product. You can't do certain, and if you do those things, you might not, or like maybe the recording got ruined, right? We were like, what if they lost the recording? Like, we were so scared, and then it turned out very positive.
The global company lost their recording.
I actually heard it happen.
Really?
So Carrie Stevenson in Winnipeg, who started like North Forge's makerspace, like the Fab Lab,
I'm aware,
he did a TED Talk in the very first year that Winnipeg ever did it, and they lost his footage. But I think Winnipeg lost his footage, not like TED.
Okay.
But so like nobody,
fair,
we're not calling anybody out here.
Yeah.
But so his talk does not exist to this day.
Damn.
And he was like one of the first people talking about 3D printing way back when.
Yeah.
And it would have been like an amazing talk.
What else is on your bottles that you haven't achieved yet?
Ooh, yeah, that's good. I have a certain dollar amount that I want to make for one talk.
Okay. These numbers get pretty high.
They get pretty high. No.
You can't say it?
No, not yet. You know, it's my own little things I'm trying to succeed with. So yeah, there's a number for sure that I want to reach for one talk. Actually, I told my whole family that if I get one talk that, like my whole family, like so all my first cousins, my grandparents, my parents, like my aunts and uncles and all their kids, right? Those are first cousins. On my mom's side, my big French community side. Last Christmas, I said to them, if I get a gig one day that pays me $50,000 for one 60-minute keynote, which a lot of great keynoters do get, but it's like, it's not going to happen tomorrow, right? I'll give everyone in the family $1,000 toward us going on a family trip together. Because we've been talking about that for a long time, but it's hard for people at different financial stages, some having kids, whatever, to like make that work. So I was like, I'll give every single person here, which would be like half the paycheck at least, because there's like, 25 people in the family or something, or 20 people in the family. But I was like, that seems like a great way to spend your first big gig money. So I was like, and then they were like, we're gonna hold you to that. I was like, great. If it means us actually going on a big family trip together, that's incredible.
That's so cool.
Or I just like pay for a big villa somewhere or something, right? But like, who cares where that money go? Like, okay, you put an extra 20 in investments or something, but it's like, and listen, like I'm talking like I have a bunch of money right now. I don't. Like I'm making a very normal salary right now. But if I get that number one day, it means things are looking good.
Right.
You know?
And you're celebrating the
So
win.
I'm like, why not celebrate with the people I love in that way?
That's cool.
Yeah. But then there's some other things. I want to, oh gosh. Yeah, there's a lot of things. I don't think the other goals are like quite as clear, but because it's hard to know like where this can take me. But you know, like if I could just have a show like Oprah one day, that'd be fine.
Did you,
What's
did you have one?
I had a podcast for a while. Yeah.
On Shaw TV.
And I had a show, because we did a show like this. We had a podcast that we did turned into a vodcast.
Yeah.
And then the video episodes got picked up on Shaw.
Yeah.
But you know, community TV is like another level. They just like air what you already have kind of thing. But it was still cool. And we started making money with the show and stuff. But I then started that big global job at TopTel at the time and just decided to kind of like ramp that down. So yeah, we'll have to restart something. I don't know.
What's one connection you hope to make in the future?
I am actually trying. So I've always kind of been like this, where I don't have like a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. A lot of people who are successful, or like when I was younger, I thought a lot of people were successful, that was the way you had to do it. And people would always ask me questions like, what are you doing 5 years from now, right? Like in your career, a lot of young people were like, where are you going to be 5 years from now? I always was like, I don't know, because the next thing that I do might lead me down like this path over here. And so if I'm only aiming this direction, like if you aim one direction, you can be successful. I said it earlier, right? If you jump in with 2 feet and you have a clear focus, it's great. But if you're kind of like open to what might happen, then you end up having a weird career like I have now, right? Like I would have never had this career if I wasn't like open to weird steps along the way that took me in these like different places. And so I feel very fortunate for that. And that involved not being so set on only one thing. So it's a bit of a like contradiction there. But your question about who do I want to meet, it's like, I actually only want to meet people like here so that I can get here, so that I can get here. Like I'm not often thinking like, I want to meet this celebrity. Like I've never really been about celebrities. I think they're probably like too busy to really help you anyway, unless you like magically impress them and they like love you and take you under their wing, which is like, you know, a shot in the dark. So I want to meet, right now, people running amazing events that can hire me. Yeah.
Is there anything that you wish the world knew about you that they don't?
I think many years ago there were things, but now I think I talk more vulnerably about like who I am, and people have started to see like more sides of me. I think historically it would have been like the answer to that earlier question about kind of the side of me that's like at the cabin in the woods and like capable of relaxing and capable of like, you know, like I'm hauling wood out of the forest and stuff. I'm not in my blazer. At one point I had to like tell people that side existed. You know, now I think people see more sides of me and I'm more open about it.
Was that hard for you to let that side out?
I don't think to let that side, because I still think that side it's like cool in its own way. So like I didn't see it as a negative, but I do struggle though with like allowing myself downtime still. I feel very guilty when I allow myself downtime. Like if I did like a whole day of just like relaxing, watching TV, I'm feeling guilty while I do it. Like even though I might need it, I might totally need to do nothing because I'm just totally exhausted after an event I've done. I still am thinking to myself, you should have answered that email. Why don't you just quickly go? Why don't you just quickly do that? Like, and then and then I think to myself now, actually the whole TV watching, cutting down thing was because I said to myself, if I'm going to watch TV intentionally. Like watch it. Like have a show that actually is like an interesting show, has like maybe a good plot, or like it's a documentary or something. And I'm not just watching documentaries. Like I'm watching interesting, I don't know, crime, like whatever, like a thriller or something.
Love is Blind.
But sometimes, not lately, but I do enjoy a good Love is Blind.
Yeah.
Such a good show.
But I will like put the phone away and watch the TV. Because if I'm half working anyway, and I'm not a big scroller, so like, and those two at the same time, like they're two mediums to do the same thing. So I don't really understand why we do those at the same time. It's an unfortunate habit. But I'm like, watch the TV and enjoy it and relax and get into the story and like feel wrapped up in the story, because storytelling is fun and being absorbed in stories is great. But if you're half watching anyway because you're also messaging, then I was like, Kate, no, Margaux, then turn off the TV or put that down. Like I pick the one thing that you're doing. And it's such a great thing when you do that. I found it giving myself little like mantras is very helpful, which is also like a cheesy thing I never would have done before, or at least not called them that. So, you know, if I catch myself doing this, I'm like, you know, talk to yourself. You're like, put it down, put it aside, like enjoy the show or don't watch a show, right? Cool. And I have this with like other things in life too, where if you like keep telling yourself the thing, it does work.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Margaux, if you had any advice for the audience that's listening to you, form connections here at the podcast, what would your advice be to them?
My advice would be to go out and get what you want. If you want to achieve something that involves other people as your gatekeepers, which most of us do, then start building those connections today so that when you need them down the road, they're available to you. And I know that sounds daunting to a lot of people and it just sounds like homework, but just start like chipping away in little ways, right? Go on whatever platform you think those people are on and go right to their stuff and comment on it and like be engaged with them. You know, show up at the right networking events that you want to go to. They're exhausting because you're going to ones that are like, you're going to too many or ones that aren't a fit for you. Like, go to the one that you think you need and really show up when you go there. Like be open, be ready, have a few questions planned. I often say to people too, if you make 2 good connections or 3, give yourself a number, kind of like the mantra thing. Be like, if I leave this event and I've made 2 good connections, I don't know where they'll go for me or whatever, but I talked to 2 people and we had a meaningful connection. We actually talked about something good. I felt like I know them a little bit now. That's a win. So let yourself think that that's a win and like tell yourself, if I meet 2 great people, it's a win. Then you're not going to these events thinking like, I talked to 1 million people. This is so exhausting. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't have good intro questions like they have, you know, all these things. It's like we're putting barriers between ourselves and the things that we want. There's simpler ways to tackle these things. Talk to the quiet guy in the corner and then go home, right? Or 2, right? I've told you 2. So talk to 2 quiet people along the side of the wall and then go home. And at least you've been there. At least you're trying. Every time you're chipping away because you're meeting 1 or 2 more people. And that's what's going to really help you in the long run. But then you have to maintain those. Okay, so there's all those tips we talked about earlier. But the podcast that I used to host a long time ago that you just alluded to recently was called Start Podcast. We interviewed founders of startups. And the biggest piece of advice that we always kept seeing over and over was just start. The biggest barrier that most people have is just beginning that thing that they know they want to work toward. You know, me with the business that I had, I said I jumped in with 2 feet, but that was after a long time of doing it on the side, building it, meeting people, telling people that I would host for free, telling people I would speak for free, doing webinars for school groups and student groups and like people that are accessible that need people to talk on their area of expertise. When I was young, I did a lot of volunteering. I used to do talks about volunteering, right? Because I knew how to like work the system of volunteering. And by the way, like if you're young and you're trying to figure out how to meet people, go volunteer strategically. Don't go like, okay, I was about to say don't go volunteer at like the soup kitchen. Okay, also go volunteer at the soup kitchen. But if there's a association that's your exact field of work you want to be in, that's where you go volunteer. It's still volunteer work. You can still feel good about it. You're still doing it for free, but then you're meeting the connections that you want at the same time. And then you can do talks about volunteering if that's something you want to do. But it's just like, you always just have to like start that process, jump in, try, take the first step forward. Even with my business today, I just left the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers convention in Halifax. So CAPS, we talked about, I don't know if that'll air as part of the episode, we talked about it a bit at the beginning, but I just left CAPS in Halifax and we were overwhelmed by the amount of information of things that we should do with our speaking business, because it is a business and a lot of us don't know how to run it like a business because we've just done it like on the side or for free or getting a little bit of money here and there, right? And so when I left that, even the mantra to myself was, do one thing next week that moves your business forward, because I took away about 400 from the event last week, right? And that can be so overwhelming. So when it comes to connection, networking, your business, your job, whatever you want to do next, just like do that one next thing, because each one of those little steps gets you there and they add up way faster than you realize.
Motion.
Yeah, exactly.
Margaux, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story. If you haven't already, check her out. And until next time, peace.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.